Black Myth Wukong just came out, and you may be asking yourself, is it actually worth the 60 bucks? Should you check it out immediately? Now, I'm gonna try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, and I've only personally played the game for 2 hours, but in that time, I've experienced some awesome things, and I wanna talk about it a little bit. Hopefully by the end of this video, you can decide if you actually wanna check out the game or if it has piqued your interest in any way. Now, there's a few spark notes that I do want to highlight here, and that is the optimization and overall stability of the game. I want to talk about the cutscenes, the overall combat, the skill tree and boss fights, and just kind of uniqueness of the game itself. Now, yes, in 2 hours, it may seem like there isn't that much to it, but I promise you in 2 hours, I experienced more of this game. It felt like there was so much to dive into within that time than most other games I've played. I will admit, this game does not really waste your time. You are pretty much from the jump straight in. Something that isn't really a spoiler, but just something that was very cool and I liked seeing it. There are no loads or anything like that. You are immediately in a cinematic the moment you click start game, and I thought that was fantastic. Now, the cutscene itself is very cool. I personally don't know the story of Journey to the West, which is what Black Myth Wukong is based on, but these cinematics had me going. These cinematics are fantastic, and they actually are like movie-like quality. Now, again, I know very little about the mythology and the characters within it and the story itself, but just from what I saw, the way things happened and the way the cutscenes played out, just honestly, again, how cinematic and well put together they felt and looked was very nice to see from the very moment you enter the game. Now, also, there are moments of combat when you actually get into the combat, and then once you reach a certain point, you are going to go into another cutscene, and that's going to kind of intertwine the next part of combat and the next phase. You have some dialogue between a character and yourself, which is really nice. So it jumps between cutscene and gameplay until you get to your next part, and then you're kind of in like the tutorial. Now, I'm not sure if this was because the frame rate was uncapped for me and I should have had it capped. I should have had VSync on or something like that. It did seem in the starting area that there was a little bit of maybe a little like it wasn't the most fluid, at least at that point, but maybe it was just my eyes adjusting to the game, and it's not really something I noticed moving forward. When it comes to the optimization and the overall stability of the game, I was thinking, because at least I had a slight concern, because the game is 118 gigabytes, we got to think that is basically 2 Cyberpunk 2077s, 2 Witcher 3s, that is 2 Monster Hunter Worlds, that is larger than Sea of Thieves. I was thinking this game is potentially not going to be well optimized, and that is not at all the case. I want to say this first and foremost, the game is unbelievably optimized while playing the game at max graphics, while streaming at the same time at 1440p. My CPU usage was at 20%. Thank you so much for subscribing. I appreciate you, Phantom. But yes, so the overall optimization is fan-freaking-tastic. Well done, Game Science. So when you see the overall game size and 118 gigabytes, and could that potentially, no, it has nothing to do with optimization. The game actually just is that big. Now, in the 2 hours that I played, I got to fight 4 bosses. I'm not going to say anything about the beginning. You'll see if you play the game. All of those 4 bosses felt very unique. They had decent abilities to them. They all had a decent challenge to them. One of the bosses I was definitely not ready to fight, and I ended up dying to that boss 4 times before I was actually able to take that boss out. It is the 3rd boss that you fight. Once you actually play the game, you'll know what I mean. There is definitely a good challenge to the bosses. Nothing impossible within these first 4 bosses, and something that a lot of people are thinking is this game is a Souls-like. It is not. It is way more of an action RPG with Souls-like elements injected into it, but it in itself is not a Souls-like, so you don't have to worry about that. Again, the boss fights did feel very unique. They had cool abilities. The dodging mechanic is very, very nice. I know that Wukong has clones, at least to some degree. He's able to do something with clones. There is a very cool little thing that you can do with your dodges, and overall, it was just very nice. When it comes to your overall combat, the combat feels very, very good. It feels well thought out, and you have, of course, course, your light attacks, your light attack combos, you have your heavy attacks. You, of course, since Wukong has his staff and he's able to jump and then do, you know, ground slam attacks or like over the head attacks and that kind of stuff, was very fluid. The combat felt good. The combat and hit registration with enemies hitting you, you hitting enemies, bosses hitting you, times to actually dodge, and what was coming at you felt very responsive. So I have absolutely no complaints with any of that. And when it comes to the skill tree, it is absolutely freaking deep. You have multiple different levels to your staff itself. Then you have multiple different levels to upgrading your health or your stamina, your depletion of your stamina and whatnot. Then you also have a tab for your mutations, because as you've seen, most likely in the trailers, there are mutations that you can do at some point. So you have your upgrades for that. You have your upgrades for your own personal abilities, all kinds of things. The skill tree is very deep. For anybody that was wondering, is it going to be a couple abilities? Is it going to be a couple of this or that? It is deep. There is a lot of consideration that can go into this skill tree and multiple different builds that you can go with, which was fantastic to see. That's pretty much all I have to say about Black Myth Wukong within the first 2 hours of playing the game. I am more than hyped to play Black Myth Wukong even more. So if you enjoyed this mostly spoiler-free review, drop this video a like. I greatly appreciate your time. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next Black Myth Wukong video, whether that be boss fights or more thoughts and whatnot of the game. But stay tuned and enjoy your journey to the West.